Hello world, it is Spooky Month. Here is a spooky. The Horror of Salazar House is a short Italian-inspired horror adventure game which comes to us from developer Moldo19 and publisher Torture Star Video. Loving the early 90s VHS style splash screen, by the way. Looks to be the first release from both parties, judging by their Steam and itch.io pages. It's available on the aforementioned storefronts for Windows and Linux. Oh, and if you've seen something called The Enigma of Salazar House, it would seem that this is the same game, either with a name change or it's the final version or something. Before we get started, I'm going to save you a click and repeat the content description from the Steam page. The game contains a hanged depiction, as in someone who has been hanged, a face without skin, and the use of medical drugs and overdose. None of which I'm going to show in this video, but you may encounter it during play. If you think the game is still for you, we'll go on to the story. We focus on a young reporter named Elisa, who's been investigating Jaime Salazar, a renowned author who disappeared in 1986 along with his entire family. And the gardener. The game itself takes place in 1992, so this has been an unsolved mystery for 8 years at this point, plenty of time to build up some mystique. On the eve of finishing an article about this whole affair, Elisa's boss sends her to investigate the mansion. Urgently. Very urgently, like out of character urgently. As you might have guessed, Elisa arrives at the mansion the next day and things get weird. That description covers the prologue chapter, available as a free demo incidentally, which will also get you used to how the game works. It plays out like a cross between Dungeon Master, the first-person dungeon crawling classic, and Haunting Ground, the hide from monster spiritual sequel to the Clock Tower series. I never thought I'd get PlayStation 2 footage into one of these videos. Wander from room to room, interact with the scenery, and maybe pick up an item or two. Maybe use an item or all of them. Initially I had a problem with the navigation. It's done by moving in the traditional compass directions, but you don't get to choose which way you're facing, so it can sometimes feel like you're just turning around rather than actually travelling south, for example. However, this is easily mitigated by keeping the map screen open while moving about. That makes things a lot clearer. You can either click the arrows on screen to move around, or WASD and arrow keys will do the same job too. And I think we all know how I feel about optional keyboard controls by now. Your basic objective is to investigate a spooky house and find out what happened to this family back in 1986, and you accomplish this by exploring, finding items, and then eventually doing things with those items. While various things try to kill you, it's really important to know going in. Instant death is a distinct possibility here. Click the wrong thing and it may very well kill you. So those journals that save your game are going to become your best friends, even if they only have one save slot. But even that isn't a sure thing, because you'll be periodically stalked by this woman with a candle and a big ol' stabby knife. If she catches up, she'll stab you, surprisingly enough, and there's only so much of those stabbings one can take. Although you are technically invading her home, to be fair. There are items to restore your health, but they are limited in supply and may have their own downsides to deal with. The best tactic is avoiding those hits entirely, accomplished by hiding in trunks or wardrobes and playing a bit of peekaboo while you're at it. The game warns you that closing your eyes for too long in this hiding state will cause this woman to find you anyway, though I must have played it too safe to trigger that effect, I guess. I didn't see it happen. I think this stalker mechanic is where the tension comes from. The fact that you need to explore, but you can't do it safely. You need to be careful. Thankfully, the places you need to go are clearly marked on the map once you find them, so it's a mere matter of getting between those points in one piece. Of course, it makes that initial run of filling out the map even more dread-inducing, not knowing when you'll next find a hiding spot. Worth noting that if this particular colour scheme hurts your eyes, there's options to change it to a variety of long-forgotten terminal computer setups. And Nintendo consoles. In dynamic colour mode at least, the screen will turn progressively more red as her stabbiness approaches, giving you a bit of advance notice to run off and do a hiding. Early segments might make you think that this game's approach to horror is based around jump scares, and that's not entirely fair. There's horrific images of mutilated bodies too. Okay, I'm being unfair now. I like the tension that wandering this mansion brings up, not knowing what you're going to find, how it'll relate to the main mystery, what's safe to touch, or when Her Royal Majesty of Rampant Shanking is going to wander your way. Even with the save points, you still need to get to the right place with that in the back of your mind. Then when you actually get there, you'll have the low-res animations to creep you out even further. And I specifically mean the animations. Something about the way those pixels resolve fine, realistic movement down to a lower fidelity just adds to the creep factor. However, not everyone gets scared the same way or the same amount. Pretend you don't get scared at all for a second. If you remove tension from the equation, it's easy to think of the stalker lady as a bit of an annoyance. I'd say yes, but not much. The screen turns red, you hide or get stabbed. It's over with pretty quickly, and it's not like you have to just sit there twiddling your thumbs until she gets bored and leaves. You can peek around, you can close your eyes when she gets too close. It's interactive. Not overly so probably nothing that would get you out of the situation faster, but it's there. I couldn't get particularly annoyed at it as a mechanic, really. I thought it worked. So does that mean that all you need to do is explore the rooms, grab the items, go every once in a while, and, important, don't get stabbed? Not exactly. There's some form of ritual at play in this house, involving each member of the Salazar family. The first thing you're directed to is a black book which tells you what you need to do. It's not very readable, unfortunately. Could have gone with a darker background for that one. The information is in there though, I promise. Once you have that book, it's up to you to absorb what it tells you and decide what to do next. It's not always a simple use object on hotspot solution that's needed here either. You'll need to think a bit outside the box compared to traditional adventure game logic. The game has 8 different endings depending on what you do with the information that book gives you. Some of those endings might let you escape the house. Most of them will probably involve your death. Not every in-game death will give you a different ending though. These ones appear to be special. As mentioned, the game is quite short. 2 hours of play got me about 3 of these endings, with the help of restoring a save, mind you. I would complain further that the game only gives you 1 save slot per playthrough, but I found the length of the game mitigates that quite well. It's not a big time sink if you want to go for another ending, so it doesn't feel so much of a chore. I don't see a run taking very long on its own, especially if you've played through once and skipped the dialogue you've already read. I realise that doesn't sound like much of a compliment, at least until you learn that the game costs less than $4, £2.89 in my local money. I think you get a fair bit of entertainment for that price. Before I forget, since I've decided there has to be a nitpick in every episode, I'm going to go with a lack of profiles. What do I mean by that? Well, one installation of the game will contain the progress of everyone who plays it, with your only option being to continue with a shared save or wipe it all and start again. Support for multiple users on one machine would have been nice. I can't help but feel these nitpicks are getting even more petty as time goes on. Maybe I'm just encountering better games. Now, I'm releasing this video around the time of International Pumpkin Bat Skelly Day 2020 for what are probably quite obvious reasons. If you're watching this looking for something spoopy to try out today, then I think this is a pretty good fit. It creeps, it tenses, it jump scares, it's cheap, and you can get through it all in one evening. Well, a couple of endings anyway. Probably not all 8 unless you really make a push. That black book doesn't spell out the problems or the solutions. You need to put in a bit of work yourself. Nothing impossible. I got my 3 endings in about 2 hours without consulting any walkthroughs. Digging deeper might warrant a little internet research, however. I think it's a nice balance between making you think and being doable. Even the music, 8-bit by anyone's definition, manages to carry this tension along when I was worried it would sound out of place. So, if you want a Halloween game, I think this will do nicely. If you want a short adventure game with some extra mechanics to spice things up, and the potential for multiple playthroughs, I think this will also do nicely. If you're in neither of those camps, the mystery of what happened in this incredibly spacious and sparsely decorated house might not be enough to carry the experience. For those first 2 camps though, I think this game at this price is an absolute steal, and at the very least worth trying out the demo for.